Good evening. May the peace of the Lord envelop you now. I pray that the surrounding environment becomes a refuge. The soft light, the rhythmic breathing, the heart reminding us that God is near. Loving Father, reach this person with your goodness. Visit this home with your presence. Quiet their thoughts, heal the tensions of the day, dry tears no one saw. May your spirit visit this room like a gentle breeze and renew strength. May the body find rest and the soul find shelter. In the name of Jesus, may every second of this prayer become a path back to your love. Dwelling in the secret place of the Most High is not merely passing in and out of a sacred place. It is making one's home in the heart of God. The psalm describes a spiritual geography, a hiding place above all threats, and a real shadow, the shadow of the Almighty, denser and more secure than any wall. Those who dwell there learn a rhythm, breathing in God's faithfulness, breathing out anxiety, lying in the shade and even without seeing, feeling the shelter. Here rest is not the absence of struggles, it is the presence of the Almighty. Dwelling implies proximity. It is not a magic password, it is a relationship. He who knows the character of the Almighty, who speaks with him, who feeds on his word, finds the path to hiding when the voices of the night try to confuse. In ancient times, shade was protection from the scorching sun. Spiritually, the shadow of the Almighty protects against the heat of worry, against the deceptive glare of fear. Whoever remains under this shade learns to distinguish reality from noise. Hiding is also a daily decision. Many visit God's presence when crisis strikes. The psalm invites us to dwell there. Dwelling is taking everything inside. Guilt, expectations, plans, conflicts. It is accepting that God offers not only escape, but belonging. The restless soul finds in the Almighty an address. Here I stay. When night falls and thoughts race, the dwelling reveals itself. The mind returns to the word. The heart returns to prayer. The body perceives safety. The shadow of the Almighty suggests such closeness that the light that reaches us has already passed through him. It is like resting so close that God's contours shape our rest. Fear may whisper, but the wings of divine care muffle the sound. The enemy may make calculations, but he cannot enter the shelter. The shadow also reminds us of limits. What goes beyond the covering is exposed. Therefore, wisdom is to remain. Letting God be the first and last thought of the day is to seal this permanence. Dwelling breaks the cycle of self-sufficiency. Our weariness often stems from trying to hold the world in our own hands. Hiding teaches us to let go. Prayer here is surrender. Father, I don't just want a solution. I want your presence. When the heart learns this, even unresolved problems lose their power to steal sleep. We fall asleep before the answer, because the refuge is greater than any result. This is the rest, the psalm promises. In hiding, identity is remembered. Far away, guilt grows. Close by, grace recounts our story. The shadow of the Almighty is not a place for the perfect, it is a place for children. Children do not beg for shelter. They receive it as an inheritance. And beneath this shadow, the soul learns to say, I am loved even though imperfect. I am protected even though fragile. I am seen even in the dark. This truth, repeated gently, disarms insomnia like someone who turns off unnecessary lights in the heart. Dwelling is also practical, attention to the word. Small intervals of prayer throughout the day, simple choices that honor God. All of this prepares for the night. Those who sow presence during the day reap rest at dusk. When the head hits the pillow, spiritual memory works. Memories of care, faithful promises, testimonies of the past, and the shadow deepens. The bed becomes an altar. The bedroom becomes a tent. Routine becomes a liturgy of peace. The shadow of the Almighty is greater than our understanding, yet accessible in the whisper of faith. It's not an emotion we need to force. It's a reality that welcomes us. When the feeling doesn't help, the decision remains. I dwell. Repeating in faith isn't denying the pain, it's anchoring oneself in truth. Little by little, the body follows the heart, the breath aligns, and sleep becomes a sacrament of trust. Each heartbeat a silent declaration that God rules. Dwelling is remaining in Christ, our perfect refuge. In Him, the distance between us and the Most High has been bridged. The shadow that covers us is the Father's faithfulness revealed in the Son and applied by the Spirit. This communion transforms the bedroom into a sanctuary, the pillow into a place of healing, the early morning into a field of quiet miracles. Beneath this shadow, tomorrow ceases to be a threat and becomes the terrain where grace has already arrived first. Lord, grant me the privilege of dwelling in you, not just occasionally, but always. Lead my heart to your hiding place. May my mind cease wandering and rest in the shadow of your care. When the night whispers uncertainty, remind me that the Almighty covers me. Hide me in your tent in the day of adversity and raise me upon the rock of your faithfulness. May my sleep be proof of your love, my breathing a silent hymn to your presence. If within any storm still lingers, I surrender it now. Take away the excess of control, the fear of losing, the pressure to succeed. Exchange my weight for your light yoke. Pour peace upon this house, guard doors and windows, seal thoughts and emotions with your peace that surpasses understanding. Bless those who share this moment with me and transform the dawn into a harvest of rest. Before I sleep, I declare, my home is the presence of God. The shadow of the Almighty covers me. My mind finds shelter. My soul rests. Nothing outside your purpose will have power over this night. All that belongs to your care will be preserved. In your name, I lie down and soon fall asleep, for you sustain me. And now, a loving invitation for you to continue walking with us. Here, every day we offer guided prayers, biblical meditations, and reflections that help cultivate this dwelling in the Most High. Sign up and make this routine a pact of peace. Each night, a step closer to trust, one less fear in your heart, a greater certainty that you are kept by God. By subscribing, you receive reminders that become small touches of love at the end of the day. Hey, it's time to rest under the shadow of the Almighty. They are pills of faith, words that attune the soul to heaven, discreet songs of hope. This constancy, night after night, forms a path in the heart, like someone who learns the way to the hidden place, even with their eyes closed. If these moments have blessed your life, subscribing is a way of saying, I want to continue. And each share, each comment becomes a seed that reaches people who may now be crying silently. Together we spread comfort, reminding the world that there is an open hiding place, and that the shadow of the Almighty rests upon any story. If you wish, turn on notifications so that each prayer arrives on time, like warm bread from the oven. And when life gets tough, you'll know where to find the way. Just return, sit, listen, breathe, pray. The presence of the Almighty will once again be your shelter, and the shadow of the Almighty your invisible blanket. There are moments in life when the soul seeks shelter like someone searching for a roof in the midst of a storm. This is what the psalmist teaches us when he says, I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. These words are not just poetry. They are a statement of faith. Refuge speaks of welcoming care where we feel protected, where we can breathe and rest. Fortress speaks of impenetrable defense, walls that no enemy can scale. God is both at once, the one who welcomes with tenderness and the one who protects with power. God's refuge is unlike any other human shelter because it is not a physical place, but a presence that envelops the entire being. At night, when the body surrenders to rest, the mind often brings back memories, worries, and insecurities. But by declaring God our refuge, we choose to dwell in a spiritual space where anxiety lessens its power. It is like entering a silent house amidst the noise of the world, knowing that within it nothing can hurt us. Fortress, in turn, represents firmness and active protection. Unlike refuge, which welcomes, fortress repels. It is like invisible walls that surround our minds and hearts against attacks of fear, insecurity, or destructive thoughts. Knowing that God is fortress means resting without fear of hidden attacks, because the defense is already established. We don't need to fight alone. The Almighty guards our borders while we sleep. There is a precious difference between seeking refuge and dwelling in a fortress. In refuge, we feel care. In fortress, we feel security. And the psalm unites the two so that we understand the completeness of God's protection. He not only wipes away our tears, but also builds walls around us. He not only comforts us, but also defends us. This means we can surrender the night without reservation, trusting with our eyes closed, because care and defense are already guaranteed. This trust is not theoretical. It becomes practical when we begin to declare with faith, "The Lord is my God, my refuge and my fortress." The word "I will say" in the verse demonstrates an active attitude. It is not enough to think, it is necessary to speak. When fear whispers, the answer must be proclaimed. There is power in words of faith, because by declaring who God is, the soul aligns itself with eternal truth. This changes our posture before the night, not as one who fears, but as one who trusts. Refuge and fortress also reveal balance. God protects us not only from the outside world, but also from inner conflicts. How often are the most dangerous enemies invisible, lodged in our thoughts? Fortress guards the mind, and refuge calms the heart. Thus, when night falls, we need not flee from ourselves. We can rest knowing that even what we carry within is reached by God's presence. Throughout history, fortresses were built to withstand prolonged attacks. This reminds us that God's protection is not momentary, but continuous. Not just during a difficult night, but every day and every night. The Lord never tires of being a fortress. He does not close the doors of his refuge. When we understand, this rest becomes deeper. We need not fear whether we will have enough strength tomorrow, because the source is eternal. In the silence of the night, this truth becomes even more real. While the world sleeps and voices grow silent, the heart can remember, I have a refuge, I have a fortress, I have a God I trust. These words become like a spiritual blanket, warming the soul and protecting it from the cold winds of insecurity. Even if our physical eyes see only an ordinary room, faith sees invisible walls and everlasting arms. Lord, tonight I declare you my refuge and my fortress. When thoughts of fear try to assail me, hide me in your care. When invisible pressures try to surround my mind, build the walls of your presence around me. I rest, not because I am strong, but because you are my defense. I sleep, not because everything is resolved, but because I am sheltered in you. Guard my life and my night under your shadow. And when tomorrow comes, may this truth continue to guide me. God is my refuge and my fortress. May I never forget to proclaim this aloud, not just as a repetition, but as a conviction that shapes my life. Before I sleep, I declare, no thought, no anxiety, no fear can penetrate the walls of my God. I rest in safety, for He is my keeper. There are traps that our eyes would never perceive on their own. The psalm speaks of the fowler's snare, a figure so precise that it reveals how the enemy acts silently, setting subtle traps to ensnare the heart. A bird doesn't see the net set for it until it's already trapped. Likewise, human beings often fail to see the spiritual, emotional, or even relational dangers that lie ahead. But the promise is clear. The Lord delivers us from these invisible traps. undoing plans we never even know about. The snare isn't just something physical, but situations that seem harmless and suddenly imprison us. A misinterpreted word, a repetitive thought, a painful memory that arises without warning. These are nets that try to ensnare our minds and hearts, preventing us from resting in peace. The psalm shows that God not only delivers us when we're already trapped, but also prevents us from being captured. He breaks ropes before they even close around us. Another precious detail is the comparison with the fowler, someone who dedicates time and patience to deception. This reminds us that there are forces that plot calmly, waiting for the right moment to strike. But our God is even more attentive and vigilant. While the enemy plots, the Lord watches every step. Nothing escapes his gaze. While we rest, he is already undoing the ropes, nullifying nets and breaking snares that we would never be able to see for ourselves. And the psalm goes further. It speaks not only of snares, but also of the pernicious plague. If the snare represents invisible snares, the plague symbolizes that which spreads quickly, bringing collective fear. The plague is something that is not easily controlled, that strikes silently and seems inescapable. But the text assures us, even in this kind of danger, God protects us. He does not leave us vulnerable to the threats that frighten the world, for his hand is stronger than any destructive force. There is something profound here. Both the snare and the plague work in secret. The noose is hidden in the ground, invisible. To the inattentive eye, the plague spreads invisibly, without anyone seeing where it comes from. God protects us from both. This shows that his protection reaches not only what we see, but also what we don't. Sleeping with this certainty is surrendering complete control to the Almighty, trusting that he defends us even from dangers we don't know. This promise changes the way we face the night. How many fears arise in our hearts precisely because we don't know what might happen? But the psalmist teaches us we don't need to see to trust, we don't need to understand to rest. God's care covers both the visible and the invisible. While our eyes close, the Spirit of the Lord remains attentive, undoing ties and neutralizing pestilences. Thinking deeper, the noose can also symbolize the thought patterns that bind us. How often do we lie down and find ourselves trapped in cycles of anxiety, replaying fears and unresolvable situations? It's like a net that tightens with every movement. But the Word assures us, God specializes in breaking these mental chains, freeing our minds to rest. Deliverance from the bond is also an inner liberation, bringing lightness to the soul. The plague can symbolize bad news, problems that seem to multiply without warning. They are like waves that arrive in series, bringing the feeling of no escape. But the promise of the psalm reminds us, no matter how many waves come, God is stronger than them all. The Almighty has the power to set a limit, to say, thus far and no farther. He is the invisible barrier against all that tries to consume us. Lord, tonight I pray that you break the bonds that try to bind my mind and heart. Deliver me from the snares I cannot see, undo the cords before they close. Protect me from the pestilence, from the evils that spread silently, and place me under your protection. May my life be marked by the freedom that comes from you. May no snare be able to hold me, and no plague be able to steal my peace. In you, I rest securely. As I lie down, I apply this promise to my life. Every snare is undone, every plague is annulled, because the Lord is my guardian. No matter what rises against me, my God is greater. Therefore, I close my eyes in peace, knowing that while I rest, he fights for me. I declare with faith, no net can ensnare me, no plague can destroy me, because I am kept in the secret place of the Most High. And so, I sleep secure in God's faithfulness. There's something deeply human about seeking shelter. From childhood, we instinctively run to someone's arms when we're afraid. The psalm, when it says that God covers us with his feathers and shelters us under his wings, awakens this memory of security in us. It's as if he were that place where we are not only protected, but also loved. It's not just strength, it's tenderness. The Almighty doesn't guard us from afar, but with intimate proximity, like a mother protecting her child. In the midst of a storm, the image of wings is powerful because it unites two dimensions, shelter and warmth. On the one hand, they block out danger from without. On the other, they bring comfort and affection to those within. Sleeping under this promise is much more than protection from evil. It is resting in a love that warms the soul. While the world outside may be cold, threatening, or hostile, under the Lord's wings there is the warmth of home, the comfort of family, the certainty of belonging. This transforms the night into a sacred refuge. It's interesting to think that a bird only opens its wings to its young in moments of threat or vulnerability. Care is always proportional to the danger. This shows us that when the enemy rises, when external pressures increase, the Lord also intensifies his care for us. Sometimes we think God is silent amidst chaos, but the truth is that it is in these moments that his wings stretch even wider over us. He never abandons us. On the contrary, he increases his coverage. Another precious point is that being under the wings requires trust. The young bird doesn't need to fight alone, doesn't need to struggle against the threat. It simply needs to remain quiet, hidden, protected. The same is true for us before God. We often want to resolve everything by our own strength, but the Psalm's invitation is to simply trust, to rest, to stop fighting against that which only he can overcome. Under the wings, we don't need to be strong, just to be present. The metaphor also teaches us about closeness. Being under the wings isn't something distant. It requires being close, almost glued to the heart of the one who protects. This speaks of intimacy with God. It's not just any refuge. It's a refuge where we can hear the beating of his heart, feel the rhythm of his spiritual breath upon us. The night, when we retreat into silence, is the perfect time to draw closer to this secret place and experience this unique intimacy. It's curious how the modern world speaks of security in terms of doors, locks, and alarm systems, but the Psalm paints a completely different picture. True security isn't cold or mechanical. It's warm and alive. It's being under wings. It's relational, not material. God doesn't protect us simply by placing external barriers, but by enveloping us with his very presence. He is security, not just offering security. This is one of the greatest uniquenesses of the Christian faith. God doesn't outsource his care. He himself is the shelter. Lord, tonight I pray that you would spread your wings over me. I want to hide in you, not as someone who runs only out of fear, but as a child who knows where their place is. Grant me the privilege of feeling this warmth, this tenderness that comes only from you. Guard my heart, guard my mind, cover me completely. May nothing from outside be able to penetrate the barrier of your wings, and may I sleep peacefully, knowing that I am literally enveloped in your love. Also pray that as I lie down, this image becomes alive within me. May I imagine, almost palpably, the Lord's wings covering me, enveloping me, protecting me. May every anxious thought dissolve in this presence. May every fear dissolve in this embrace, and may sleep come gently, like the sleep of a child resting in the lap of someone they trust completely. Under your wings, Lord, I find everything I need: protection, peace, and love. As I apply this promise, I choose today to imagine myself as that chick that retreats beneath the Father's wings. I do not want to fight my own fears. I do not want to carry burdens I cannot bear. Under your wings, I leave everything in your hands. There I find rest, I find warmth, I find identity. There I discover that I am not only protected, but also loved. This changes everything. It's not just deliverance, it's relationship. It's not just defense, it's belonging. It's wonderful when the psalm shows us that God's truth is our shield. It doesn't speak of an object made by human hands, but of the Lord's own faithfulness. This changes everything, because a human shield can break, can wear out, can fail to withstand overly strong attacks. But God's faithfulness is eternal, unchanging, and never weakens. When the Bible says that He is the same yesterday, today, and forever, it is reminding us that His commitment to us never wavers. It is this commitment that becomes the shield that covers our lives. The word used here conveys the idea of two-layer protection, shield and buckler. The shield was wide, covering the entire body. The buckler was smaller, used in closer battles. This teaches us that God's faithfulness protects us from both distant and close quarters attacks. He protects us from the greatest dangers that seem distant, but also from the intimate details of our minds, such as anxious thoughts, guilt, and fears that only we know. There is no distance or intensity of attack that God's faithfulness cannot reach. A precious detail is that God's truth is not just an abstract idea. It is alive, effective, and becomes a reality in us when we remember the promises He has already fulfilled. Each promise fulfilled is like an additional layer of this shield. If you look back and see how many times He has been faithful, your faith grows stronger and fear weakens. The enemy may even try to launch his arrows, but each reminder of God's faithfulness acts as a defense that prevents those arrows from reaching your heart. It is also important to note that God's faithfulness does not depend on our performance. Even when we fail, even when we falter, He remains faithful. This is liberating because it means the shield is not fragile like our emotions, but firm like God's character. When you lie down at night and your heart tries to accuse you, remember, your defense is not your perfection, but the faithfulness of the one who never lies. This brings peace because you can rest without needing to justify or protect yourself. Lord, tonight I pray that your faithfulness will cover me completely. I know it is not my own strength that protects me, but your steadfast love and commitment to me. May the shield of your truth be before me against fears, around me against worries, and above me against every arrow launched by the enemy. May I lie down knowing that my life is not vulnerable, but surrounded by your eternal faithfulness. I also pray that your faithfulness will silence the voices that try to torment me. May every thought of insecurity be blocked by the shield of your truth. May every accusation be intercepted by the certainty that you have already justified me in Christ. And may sleep come as a consequence of this trust, because beneath this shield there is no room for fear to thrive. I want to rest as one who knows they are protected by God Himself. Applying this promise, I choose before I sleep to declare with faith, I am protected by God's faithfulness. This is not just a phrase, it is a spiritual reality. When my eyes close and I can no longer control anything around me, that is precisely when this shield becomes most evident. He covers what I cannot see, defends against what I cannot perceive, guards what I cannot control. This awareness transforms the way I view the night, not as vulnerability, but as rest under protection. There is also an exclusivity here that needs to be highlighted. Human shields always wear out over time. But God's faithfulness does not rust, does not break, does not crack. There is no wear and tear. He is as steadfast today as He was with Abraham, David, or Paul. This places us in an eternal history of protection. You are not alone in the present. You are connected to a faithfulness that has sustained generations and will continue to do so. This assures us that nothing can break this covenant. And finally, I want to encourage you to embrace this promise wholeheartedly. As you rest, imagine yourself surrounded not by stone walls, but by the very character of God. You are protected by who He is, not just by what He does. And if this has brought peace to your heart, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here, you'll find daily messages, that will strengthen your faith, reminding you that the shield of God's faithfulness never wears out. Each video will be like a new layer of this protection over your life. Night has always been a setting that brings with it a mixture of silence and vulnerability. Since biblical times, darkness has been associated with uncertainty, because it was the time when the eyes could not see and enemies could move in secret. The psalm does not ignore this reality, but brings a powerful promise. You will not fear the terror of the night. This does not mean that dangers have ceased to exist, but that God's presence is greater than any hidden threat. It is as if He places an invisible shield around those who trust in Him, making the night a place of rest rather than torment. It is interesting to note that the text speaks of terror and not just fear. Terror is deeper. It is that sensation that paralyzes, that haunts even for no apparent reason. Often at night, bad thoughts appear uninvited. Painful memories arise out of nowhere, and the mind insists on clinging to what causes anguish. But the psalm assures us we do not need to submit to this cycle. When God is present, even the deepest terror loses its power because the heart begins to trust in the Lord's faithfulness more than in the echoes of darkness. Here we find a transformative discovery. The promise is not just the absence of fear, but liberation. This means that God not only lifts the weight of anxiety, but also gives us renewed courage. Those protected by the Almighty learn to look at the night differently. The bedroom ceases to be a battlefield of the mind and becomes a sanctuary of peace. Sleep, once interrupted by worries, becomes restorative because now it occurs under divine protection. Lord, tonight I pray that all terror may be dispelled by your presence. If any dark thought tries to haunt my mind, may it be silenced by your voice of peace. I know that fear has no power over me because I am kept by your love. May the shadows of the night not be a source of anguish, but a reminder that even in the darkness, you shine like a light that never goes out. Guard my heart as one guards a precious treasure. I also ask, Lord, that your Spirit give me courage in the face of the unseen. I no longer want to feel trapped by fears I cannot explain. The night terrors that have so often kept me awake, I today place into your hands. May every noise of the night, instead of awakening anxiety, remind me that you are around me. May every shadow remind me that I live under the shadow of the Almighty. By applying this promise, I choose to use the word as my weapon. When fear tries to approach, I will declare aloud, I will not be afraid of the terrors of the night, for the Lord keeps me. This simple confession transforms the atmosphere. It is not just a spoken phrase, but a spiritual truth that repositions my heart. Fear recedes when faith advances, and faith advances when the word is declared. A unique feature of this verse is that it promises deliverance not only from visible dangers, but also from invisible ones. The psalmist knew that not every attack can be perceived by human eyes. Often the greatest terrors are internal, linked to memories, worries, or spiritual attacks. And yet God promises to protect us even in these secret places of the heart. This shows us that the Lord's faithfulness goes beyond what we can explain. He cares for what is outside of us as well as what is within. Lord, I also pray for those who tonight struggle with insomnia caused by fear. May they now feel your presence, filling their surroundings. May there be comfort where there was terror. May there be liberation where there was oppression. May every heart find in your care the confidence to surrender to rest without reservation. Lift the weight from our shoulders and replace it with the peace that surpasses all understanding. And as you receive this word, I want to encourage you to not only hear, but live this promise. When you lay your head on the pillow, remember, the terrors of the night have no power over those who rest in God. If this content has edified your life and renewed your faith, subscribe to this channel. Here, each message is prepared to be like light in the midst of darkness, reminding us that The night will never be greater than the Lord's care. Imagine yourself now enveloped by a peace so profound that it leaves no room for fear. Imagine the room filled with the presence of the Almighty, as if every corner were illuminated by the certainty of His care. This is not just a poetic image, but a spiritual reality. You can rest without fear because you are guarded by the One who never sleeps. May this truth lead you to a peaceful, safe, and restorative night's sleep. The text speaks of the arrow that flies by day, and it's striking how timely this image is. The arrow is silent, swift, and often invisible until the moment of impact. It represents unexpected attacks, hurtful words, injustices that take us by surprise, or thoughts that arise like darts in the mind. But the psalm reminds us that God is the protector against what we see and what we don't see, against what we hope for, and against what surprises us. He's not only a shelter in the night, but also during the day, when life seems to bombard us from all sides. There is a special depth to this verse. The danger described here comes not from darkness, but from the light of day. This shows that it is not only at night that we face challenges. Even when everything seems clear and calm, there can be sudden attacks. This word teaches us that there is no moment when we are uncovered, because God's presence does not depend on the hour. He guards both our steps in the light and our thoughts in the silence of dawn. Another discovery is that the arrow is not only external. Often the greatest darts are thrown at the mind and heart, thoughts of doubt, feelings of rejection, accusations that seem too accurate. These are invisible arrows, but they can wound deeply if not intercepted. This is where God's faithfulness acts as a shield. His word is like a barrier that prevents the arrow from reaching its target. It's as if He Himself stands before us, absorbing the impacts we lack the strength to face alone. Lord, tonight I ask You to protect me not only from what my eyes can see, but also from the attacks that approach without my realizing it. You know, every arrow that has been thrown at me, every word that could hurt, every situation that would try to destabilize me. I rest in the certainty that none of these darts will succeed because I am hidden in You. I also pray, Father, for all those who are listening to this message and carry within themselves wounds from arrows that have already struck them. Perhaps harsh words, betrayals, or fears from the past. I ask that You heal these scars, Lord. May every wound be restored by Your presence so that they can sleep in peace without fear of further attacks. May their hearts be filled with renewed hope. In practice, this promise teaches us to surrender not only our fears, but also our days. Before sleeping, we can declare, Lord, I place before You everything I've experienced today. Every word, every look, every situation that tried to harm me. I place it in Your hands because I know You are my shield. This declaration frees the mind and allows for a lighter sleep because we don't carry worries to our pillow. A special detail: the arrow that flies during the day suggests that the enemy attacks on the move, always trying to find gaps. This means that God's protection is not static, but dynamic. He follows our steps, adjusts the shield according to direction, and is always alert. He is like a guard who is never distracted, who knows even the hidden intentions against us. This divine vigilance is what gives us complete security. Lord, clothe me with Your spiritual armor. May Your truth be my shield, and may my mind be protected by the helmet of salvation. Let no arrow find a place in my heart. May every attack be neutralized by the power of Your Spirit, so that I may live in peace during the day and sleep soundly at night. And if you are receiving this word, remember, there is no arrow, visible or invisible, that can overcome the Lord's care. Declare this truth in your life. I will not fear the arrow that flies by day, for the Lord is my protector. Make this not just a phrase, but a posture of faith. As you fall asleep, imagine all arrows being deflected by God's shield. So, if this Content has strengthened your faith and blessed your nights. Subscribe to this channel. Here, you will find psalms and prayers that not only comfort, but also equip you to conquer the days and rest at night. Thus, each video becomes like another arrow of light, nullifying the arrows of darkness that try to reach you. May you sleep tonight with this certainty. God is your shield against every attack. Verse 6 leads us to reflect on the reality of dangers we cannot see. The plague that stalks in darkness represents the invisible, silent evils that attempt to act when we have no control. The psalmist describes not only something physical, but also spiritual and emotional. These are the hidden threats that prowl the night, but which lose strength in the presence of God. He protects us not only from what is evident, but also from what is hidden. His protection is total and covers even that which we would never perceive. This text is very timely because we live in a world full of uncertainty. There are illnesses, spiritual dangers, emotional attacks, and pressures that creep up on us. The plague that stalks in darkness symbolizes precisely these enemies we cannot identify. But it is precisely here that the promise becomes even more precious. God protects us from what is beyond our reach. He is the watchman of the night, attentive to every detail, incapable of being surprised. It is striking that the plague stalks in darkness, but cannot hide from the light of the Lord. Even in the deepest silence of the night, He sees everything. This shows us that God's power is not limited by what we cannot see. On the contrary, when we are vulnerable, He is even more active, like a father who rises to watch over his children's room while they sleep. It is in this rest that we can experience a confidence that overcomes fear. Lord, tonight I surrender to you not only the dangers I recognize, but also all those I cannot even imagine. Protect me from the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, from hidden evils, from diseases that try to advance unnoticed, from words and attacks that come hidden. May no shadow have power over me, for I am under your light. I also pray, Father, for all who carry the weight of worry about things they cannot control. Anxiety is like a plague of the mind, prowling in the darkness of dawn. But I declare in the name of Jesus that every restless heart be enveloped now by the assurance of your protection. May every disturbing thought be dispelled, and may the peace that comes from you become like a shield around those who trust. This promise teaches us something essential. We don't need to live trying to predict or control everything. True rest lies in trusting in the one who sees the invisible. When we go to bed, we can pray, Lord, I don't see everything, but I know you see. I can't remember every detail, but I know you keep me. This act of surrender frees us from anxiety and makes room for a peaceful sleep. A unique detail here is that the word plague can also be understood as something that multiplies silently. This reminds us that just as evils can grow hidden, so too does God's grace multiply without us noticing. While we sleep, He works on our behalf. While we rest, He strengthens our bodies, renews our strength, and neutralizes everything that would try to grow against us. Lord, I pray that this night be marked by your invisible intervention. May where evil tries to advance silently, your powerful hand stop it. May every plague, physical or spiritual, be annulled by your presence. May the heart of those who pray with me feel the lightness of being guarded with each breath, as proof that your faithfulness is greater than any threat. If you are listening to this message, do an exercise of faith before bed. Take a deep breath and declare within yourself, "No plague will touch me, for the Lord keeps me." Allow this phrase to echo in your heart like a gentle song. The more you meditate on this, the more your mind adjusts to the peace that the Holy Spirit pours out. When the psalmist speaks of the slaughter that strikes at midday, he shows us that divine protection has no time limit. The night is marked by hidden fears and anxieties, but the day also brings obvious, visible dangers that seem to advance with force. Midday symbolizes the time when everything is clear, where the light reveals the intensity of the attacks. It is in this scenario that the text affirms, "The Lord is protection, whether in the darkness of dawn or in the full brightness of day." The promise never fails. This expression, slaughter, can remind us of situations of collective destruction, of chaos all around, when it seems nothing and no one is safe. But the psalmist presents God as the one who establishes a line of personal protection, as if erecting an insurmountable barrier. Even if the world seems to collapse in the full sun, the life of the righteous remains protected. It is an invitation to trust, even when circumstances seem to scream otherwise. Here, too, there is a precious detail. Midday was considered in Hebrew culture the most exhausting time of the day, when the sun's heat reached its peak. Thus, the death toll at midday can symbolize the hours of greatest emotional, spiritual, and physical exhaustion. It is at this time that many give in to weariness, but the Lord presents himself as a refreshing shade, a safe refuge in the midst of fatigue. He protects us when human strength no longer sustains. Lord, I pray now that all destruction that attempts to approach during the day may be nullified by your presence. Be it illness, spiritual attacks, destructive words, or even weariness of the heart, may nothing have power against those who trust in you. Grant us the peace of knowing that even when everything seems threatening in the full light, your care is constant and unfailing. I also ask, Father, that tonight, while this person rests, you prepare tomorrow. May each morning be begun with the certainty that no death can overcome your protection. May she, upon opening her eyes, feel that she has been supported and guarded while she slept, and may this trust accompany her throughout her journey. This verse teaches us something profound. The spiritual life is not only about surviving the dark nights, but also about remaining steadfast in the most intense days. God protects us not only against nocturnal fears, but also against daily weariness. His faithfulness extends from dawn to dusk, covering every moment of our existence. This is the fullness of divine care. Nothing is beyond his reach. A unique aspect here is to note that noon is the time when shadows disappear. When the sun is directly overhead, there is no shadow to hide. This symbolizes moments when we have nowhere to protect ourselves. It is precisely there that we discover the greatness of God. He himself becomes the shade, the refuge, the shelter, even when everything seems exposed. He is protection when we have no other recourse. Lord, make us experience this spiritual shade even on the driest days. May every heart that hears this prayer know that it need not fear weariness, nor heat, nor destruction, for you are a constant help, ready to cover, guard, and sustain. May trust in your care be greater than any visible threat. If you are lying in bed now, remember, just as God guarded you during the night, he will also be with you during the day. Whether it's dawn, morning, or noon, the same God who watches over your sleep accompanies every step you take tomorrow. This thought is key to true rest, knowing that tomorrow is already under the protection of the Almighty. And to further strengthen your faith, subscribe to this channel. Here, each prayer is an opportunity to renew your trust in God, to remember that he covers every hour of your day and every season of your life. Rest in peace now, for the Lord not only guards your night, but also protects you from all the destruction that tries to advance at midday. Verse 7 presents us with a scene of profound contrast. On one side, thousands fall, and on the other, a single life is preserved by divine care. The psalmist is not speaking of probabilities, but of a supernatural promise. He describes the impossible, surviving amidst chaos, remaining steadfast when everything around collapses. This is the mark of the Almighty's protection. God not only lessens the impact of battles, he ensures that his people are protected in the midst of them. Here, the word fall can be understood as ruin, defeat, collapse. And how often do we see situations in which it seems everyone is being affected, whether by crises, fears, or trials? The psalm affirms that even when the statistics seem contrary, God is able to raise his children as an exception. This is a promise that transcends human logic. The hand of the Lord makes the difference between those who trust in him and those who walk alone. This verse also shows that faith is not immunity from the difficulties around us, but a supernatural protection. In the midst of them, 1,000 may fall on one side and 10,000 on the other, but the person who dwells in the shelter of the Most High remains standing. This does not mean an absence of struggle, but rather a guaranteed victory. It is as if God were saying, "You will see the effects all around you, but you will not be reached, because I am your shield." Lord, I pray now for each person who hears this message, that even if the news is bad, even if the winds of life blow strong, the promise of protection will be a reality in their lives. May they experience the miracle of remaining steadfast when everything around them collapses. May your power protect them from falls, snares, and pain that could destroy them. I also ask, Father, that their heart may rest in this promise. May they not be overcome by fear of what is happening around them, but may they learn to fix their eyes on you. For your word is clear. 1,000 may fall, 10,000 may crumble, but you protect your own. May this trust be like a spiritual pillow, bringing peaceful and restorative sleep tonight. This text also brings an important lesson. Preservation does not depend on our geographical location, but on our spiritual position. No matter where you are, what determines whether you will be affected or not is your trust in God. He who trusts is under a special covering, invisible to human eyes, but real before the Lord. This is the difference of dwelling in the shelter of the Most High. A unique detail this verse reveals is that God's protection is not only individual, but also testimonial. When many fall and you remain, this becomes a living sign of the Lord's faithfulness. Your life becomes proof that there is a God who protects. Therefore, the promise is not only to keep you standing, but also so that others may see divine care for you and recognize the greatness of the Most High. Lord, make this life a living testimony of your faithfulness. May each night of sleep be an act of trust in the promise that nothing can touch it without your permission. May tomorrow, when it awakens, it sees that it survived another night, not by chance, but because the Lord sustained it. May this strengthen your faith and bring abundant peace to your journey. If you are listening to this prayer before going to sleep, surrender to God all your fears of tragedies, accidents, or situations beyond your control. Remember, even if the circumstances are intense, the Almighty has already declared that you will be protected. This truth has the power to silence the deepest fears and give your heart a peace that the world cannot offer. And so that this peace accompanies your nights daily, subscribe to this channel. Here you will find psalms and prayers that reinforce your faith, strengthen your soul, and remind you every day that 1,000 may fall at your side, but you will remain steadfast, guarded, and protected by the God who never fails. When the psalmist declares that only with your eyes will you see, he is speaking of a privilege reserved for those who trust in the Lord, to be spectators of divine justice without being targets of evil. There is something powerful in this, in promise, because it not only guarantees deliverance, but also gives the certainty that God is the one who acts. You don't need to wear yourself out in battles you cannot win. God himself rises up on behalf of those who trust in him, and you will see with your own eyes the outcome he has prepared. This verse is an invitation to rest, because often our greatest struggle is not external, but internal. Our hearts are stirred, longing for explanations, immediate results, or even justice in our own hands. But the psalm teaches us that the role of the righteous is not to act hastily, but to trust and observe. The gaze of the righteous is trained to perceive the silent movement of God, which in due time reveals his justice clearly and indisputably. Seeing God's justice is more than witnessing the enemy's downfall. It is seeing that he never abandons his own. It's realizing that even when it seemed evil was winning, it was actually only a matter of time before the Lord would rise. This, only with your eyes, also indicates security. You are protected, untouched, while God acts on your behalf. It's like watching a storm from inside a safe house. Lord, tonight I pray that every heart that hears this message will learn to rest in your all-seeing eyes. Grant us the serenity to observe your justice without anxiety, trusting that your timing is perfect. May we let go of the need to control and learn to trust that you handle everything with wisdom. Beloved Father, free us from harboring desires for revenge or worries about what we don't understand. Teach us to surrender everything into your hands, knowing that your ways are higher than ours. As we lie down tonight, may the peace of your rule fill every thought, and may our sleep be deep and restorative, free from the restlessness that keeps us from resting. This verse also reveals a precious detail. Faith is not blind. God doesn't ask us to live with our eyes closed, but to open our spiritual eyes and perceive what he is doing. When you rest in the shelter of the Most High, your eyes are not fixed on chaos, but on God's care. You don't let yourself be overwhelmed by bad news or what goes wrong. You contemplate with eyes of faith that the Lord is just and faithful. Spiritual vision is a gift from the Holy Spirit. Many people see only what is in front of them: problems, fears, injustices. But those who dwell in God's presence have eyes, trained to see beyond. Therefore, before you sleep, ask the Lord to give you spiritual eyes, capable of recognizing his action even in the simplest things. This completely changes the way you face life's battles. Lord, open our eyes to behold your care. May we, even in the midst of struggles, see signs of your presence and miracles happening in details that often go unnoticed. May each night also be an opportunity to see your goodness reflected in our lives. And may this gaze produce gratitude in us, even in the face of adversity. If you are listening to this prayer, surrender to God now every weight of injustice you have been carrying. Release offenses, hurts, and the desire to repay in kind. Trust God is just and faithful. He knows the time to act and the right way to act. Sleep tonight with the certainty that your eyes will see the answer, but in the meantime, your heart can rest in peace. And if you wish to further strengthen this gaze of faith, subscribe to this channel. Here you will find daily messages that not only soothe your soul, but also open your spiritual eyes to perceive that God is at work, even when you cannot see with your natural eyes. There is something profoundly transformative in the moment we decide not only to visit God's presence, but to make it our dwelling place. The psalmist speaks not of a temporary shelter, but of a home, a permanent place of safety. When we declare, "You are my refuge," we are saying, "I will not seek another place of rest. I will not place my hope in human solutions, because I have found in you the dwelling place of my soul." It is like a key given to God, allowing him to be our permanent address, not just a place of emergency. Dwelling in the Lord means that even in life's changes, there is a constancy. God never ceases to be home. In nights of uncertainty, when thoughts multiply, we can return home to the Father's heart. It is not just a pretty image, but a sustaining spiritual truth. Even if the world is unstable, there is stability in dwelling in God. He is not a makeshift shelter, but an eternal fortress. Many people seek refuge in distractions, in achievements, in relationships, or even in the control of their own lives. But these dwellings are fragile and fleeting. The Psalm teaches us that only by making the Lord our dwelling can we find true rest. Sleeping in the Lord is lying down, knowing that you are no longer trying to hold on alone, but are under an unshakable spiritual roof, guarded by the one who never sleeps. Lord, tonight I give you the keys to my heart and my life. Be my permanent dwelling, my eternal home. May I not be content to simply run to you in times of affliction, but may I learn to remain, to rest, to dwell continually under your care. May my sleep be marked by the feeling of being safe in you, like someone sleeping in their own home, surrounded by your love. Beloved Father, how many times have I lost myself trying to make my own strength my shelter, but I found only insecurity? Today I declare, my home is the Lord. In you I find peace, in you I find security. Guard my heart against all illusions of false refuges. Teach me to rest every day in the fact that I already have in you the greatest shelter there is. Dwelling also means intimacy. Those who live in a house know every corner, every detail. Likewise, dwelling in God is learning to know Him more deeply. Each day, it's hearing His voice in the little things, feeling His care in the details of life. It's not just being protected, but also enveloped in constant love. This changes the way we live and even how we sleep, no longer with anxiety, but with complete peace. Lord, help me develop this intimacy with you. May each night be an invitation to deepen my dwelling in you. May I feel your presence enveloping me even in the silence of sleep, like firm walls that protect me and a solid roof covering me. May my soul never forget that it already has a safe home in you, where I can always rest. When we make God our dwelling, we cease to be spiritual nomads, wandering from place to place in search of security. We find a fixed address, His presence. This brings stability to the mind and healing to the heart. Perhaps you've come this far today, tired of looking for peace in the wrong places. The good news is, you don't need to look any further. The Lord is your home. So when you go to bed, declare with faith, my home is the Lord. Say this until you feel this truth fill your heart. Imagine yourself entering a cozy home, closing the door behind you and finding rest. This is the experience of trusting God as your dwelling place. He is a refuge that never closes, never changes, and never leaves you outside. And if you wish to continue walking toward this permanent dwelling in God, subscribe to this channel. Here you will find daily words that strengthen your faith and help you build that solid spiritual home where your soul finds rest, even on the most difficult nights. It's wonderful to think that Psalm 91 not only promises individual protection, but also extends God's covering to our homes. When the psalmist declares that no evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your tent, he is saying that the presence of the Most High protects not only you, but everything in your life, your home, your family, your rest. This means that when you lie down, you can surrender not only your heart, but also your surroundings, trusting that God seals everything with His peace. This promise is so profound because it recognizes that evil always tries to approach. It doesn't rest, it tries to invade through fear, bad news, or worries. But the text assures us it will not come near. This means that it can even prowl, it can even try, but it will not be allowed to cross the barrier of God's presence. When we invite the Lord to dwell in our home, it becomes like a spiritual fortress. Sometimes the most intense battles are not outside, but within us. Anxiety, guilt, fear. And yet, this word applies to these areas as well. No evil will have a place in your mind, no plague will settle in your thoughts. The promise covers both the physical and spiritual dimensions. It is God saying, while you sleep, I watch. Dear Lord, I surrender my home to you tonight. Place your angels around every wall, every door, and every window. Guard not only the structure of my home, but also the hearts that dwell within it. No evil, Lord, will have the power to cross the boundaries that your blood has already sealed. Transform my home into a haven of peace, where even sleep becomes prayer. Father, I know I have no control over everything that happens around me, But today I choose to trust in your word, which declares that no evil will befall me. May my trust not be in padlocks or locks, but in the God who never sleeps and is never distracted. Protect me from the dangers I see, and especially from those I don't. Sometimes the plague that tries to reach our tent is not a disease, but the plague of sadness, hopelessness, and loneliness. But I believe, Lord, that your promise encompasses them all. None of these plagues can take root in the heart that dwells in you. May my rest tonight be marked by the certainty that I am shielded by your presence. There is something special about declaring this promise out loud. When you say, "No evil shall come near me," your soul hears, your mind calms, and even the environment is transformed. The power of God's spoken word brings immediate peace. It is not a mantra, it is a spiritual truth being proclaimed, and evil recognizes the authority of one who is rooted in the Most High. Lord, I also ask you to teach me to discern when evil thoughts try to disguise themselves and enter my mind. May I not accept them as truths, but remember that your word has already declared they have no place in my life. May every time fear knocks on the door of my heart, I may respond, "There is already a master here, and he is my protector." Therefore, when you go to bed, make this verse your prayer. No harm shall befall me, nor shall any plague come near my tent. Declare it like placing a spiritual sign in front of your house saying, "Here dwells one guarded by the Lord." This awareness changes the way you fall asleep, no longer in fear, but with complete trust. And if this word has brought peace to your heart, subscribe to this channel. Here you will find daily psalms and prayers that strengthen your faith and transform your nights into experiences of deep rest, protected by the Almighty. Because each day you choose to dwell in God's presence, evil is prevented from approaching. There is something deeply comforting in knowing that God not only promises his own presence, but also sends heavenly reinforcements to guard us. When the psalmist declares, "He will give his angels charge over you," he is revealing that there is a divine mobilization taking place on behalf of those who trust in the Lord. This means that even while you sleep, there is a higher order coming from the throne of God for angels to keep watch over you. Angels are not symbols or poetic metaphors. They are real servants of the Lord, sent as protectors and ministers to those who will inherit salvation. They do not come of their own accord, but because God gives the order. This teaches us that the protection we receive is carefully planned and directed by the Father himself. It is he who defines the limits of evil and ensures that angels are strategically positioned around us. Consider the scene. You lie down to rest, close your eyes, and around your bed, your house, angels of the Lord stand like silent sentinels. They do not slumber, they are not distracted, and they do not grow weary. They have been commissioned to guard you in all your ways. This image fills the soul with peace because it shows that even in the deepest sleep, when we are most vulnerable, we are completely protected. Lord, I prostrate myself before you tonight and thank you for your faithfulness that goes beyond what I can imagine. I ask, give orders to your angels concerning me. Place them around my home, the people I love, and every detail of my life. May they be invisible barriers against every action of the enemy. May they turn back every arrow, every fear, and every attempt to disturb my sleep. Father, how many times have I missed deliverances that came precisely because your angels were in the right place at the right time? I thank you for the deliverances I have seen, but also for the many I never noticed. Tonight, I rest knowing that your order has already been given, and that I need not fear. Your angels guard me, not because I deserve it, but because you love me and have chosen me. It's interesting to note that the text says, concerning you. This means that God doesn't give generic orders, but personalized ones. The angels are sent specifically for you, for your struggles, for your path, for your life. This shows the Lord's intimate and individual care. He doesn't treat his children as a multitude, but as unique individuals. He knows every detail and orders the right protection for each situation. Imagine, before going to sleep, the atmosphere of your home filled with this angelic presence. You might even feel the weight of peace invading each room, as if the air became lighter. This is not fantasy, it is spiritual reality. Jesus himself said that the angels of little ones always see the face of the Father, showing their readiness to respond to his command. If they guard the little ones, how much more will they guard you, who have chosen to rest in the Most High? Lord, I declare that tonight I will not sleep in fear but in confidence, because I know that even if I am not conscious, your angels will be at work. They will be my guardians, my protectors, those who in your order will repel all evil that tries to approach. I rest because I know the spiritual war continues, but I do not fight alone. This promise even changes the way you face the dangers of everyday life. Knowing that angels walk beside you means that every step is accompanied by an invisible but powerful covering. And at night, when darkness tries to bring insecurity, this truth becomes even stronger. Heaven does not leave you helpless, not even for an instant. When we think of paths, we immediately imagine roads, choices, and steps taken throughout life. But the promise of the psalm goes further. It doesn't speak of just a few paths, not even the most important ones, but of all. This means that God's protection is not limited to the big moments, but also encompasses the details of everyday life, the ordinary moments, and even those that seem insignificant. God is never absent. He guards every path you take, including the path to your night's rest. The word "all" here is powerful because it reminds us that there are no compartments in life that God is not interested in. He guards your professional, family, emotional, and spiritual paths. Even the inner paths, those you only travel in your thoughts, are reached by divine care. Nothing escapes his gaze, and this frees us from the burden of thinking we need to watch over everything alone. It's interesting to note that the text also says that angels are sent to guard. This shows a clear purpose. It's not by chance that they are there, but by mission. They are not spectators. They are active participants in your protection. What's more, they are sent by God himself, who defines the extent of his protection. Therefore, you can lie down in peace, knowing that your every step is included in this promise. Lord, I pray right now that all my paths may be under your protection, that when I leave, when I enter, when I decide, when I wait, I may be guarded by your hand. Lord, cover not only the great moments of my life, but also the small details that I often overlook. God, even my dreams tonight, may they be paths of rest and not of anxiety. Dear Father, I recognize that so many times I have walked unsafe paths, taking routes that were not yours, and yet your mercy has kept me. Today, I want to rest knowing that you care for my present and my future. I want to trust that every road I have yet to travel is already mapped out by your faithfulness. May I not fear the unknown, for I do not walk alone. When you understand this promise, even the act of sleeping takes on new meaning, because sleep is also a path, a journey from awareness to surrender, from wakefulness to rest. And on this path, God also sends his angels to guard you. This means that neither the nightmares, nor the worries, nor the fears that try to invade the mind at night can prevail over those who rest in the Lord. The beauty of this text lies in showing that divine protection is integral. It covers time, space, and even that which is beyond our control. It is as if God were saying, there is no place you can go without my guard being with you. This is not just poetry, it is security for the soul. And by remembering this before sleeping, you rest without reservation, because you know there is no path outside God's sight. Lord, tonight I surrender all my ways into your hands. Every pending decision, every step I have yet to take, every road that will open before me. I ask you, guide me, protect me, and send your angels to guard me in every detail. May even the paths of my thoughts be purified by your presence. This promise also teaches us about trust. We often want to have absolute control over what lies ahead, but life shows us that we can't. What we can do is rest in the God who already knows every curve of the future and who has already determined protection along every path. This lifts the weight of perfectionism and places us in a place of surrender where peace prevails. There's a powerful image in this verse, the act of trampling the enemy. It's not just resisting, not just escaping, but conquering, subduing, putting underfoot that which previously seemed threatening. The psalm says that you will trample on the lion and the serpent, symbols of two different forces, fierce violence and treacherous cunning. God not only protects you from attack, but gives you the authority to walk victoriously over them. This is a promise of spiritual power, of dominion granted by the Almighty. The lion represents brute force, that which comes overwhelmingly, seeking to destroy through intensity. It could be a situation of pressure, unexpected news, or even an emotional crisis that emerges like a roar. The serpent, on the other hand, symbolizes the subtle, silent attack that seeks to deceive and trap us through cunning. In both cases, the text assures us, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Almighty will not be dominated. Instead, they trample, conquer, and go in peace. It's interesting to note that trampling requires a firm step. It's not running in desperation, nor hesitating in fear. It's setting foot with confidence, knowing that victory comes from the Lord. This shows us that the posture of the righteous is not passive, but active. God gives the power, but you are the one who steps in. He grants authority, but you must walk in faith, exercising what was promised. Even in rest, the Spirit is strengthened to overcome. Lord, I pray now that this person listening to me receives your spiritual authority. May every lion that tries to roar against them be silenced. May every cunning serpent that tries to ensnare their mind be crushed underfoot. May confidence replace fear and certainty replace doubt. Grant victory in all areas, and may they feel the strength of your presence even in their sleep. Dear Father, thank you that in Christ we already have victory. Thank you that we don't have to fight alone, but can rest knowing that you equip us for every battle. I pray that tonight this person's heart may be strengthened, that they may sleep remembering that they are above and not below, that they step on something and are not stepped on because the Lord is with them. This verse also reminds us of a profound spiritual reality. The enemy roars and deceives, but he does not have absolute power over those who are in God. The lion and the serpent may appear in dreams, in thoughts, in external situations, but the promise is clear. Neither can prevail. You are not a spectator of the attack. You are a victor in its midst. God gives you rest and victory at the same time. Imagine yourself walking confidently, knowing that your every step is protected and charged with divine authority. There is no trap, no brute force, no evil subtlety that can resist the presence of the Almighty in your life. This image brings peace because it shows us that even in the midst of battles, the outcome is already determined. You step on something and evil falls. Lord, once again I cry out, give this person dreams of victory tonight. May she wake tomorrow, knowing that the enemy has been defeated, that no opposing force has prevailed against her. May her mind rest free from attack, her soul be renewed, and her heart filled with courage. May the remembrance of your authority be alive in her every day. The great discovery of this verse is that victory lies not only in resisting evil, but in walking above it. This means that the righteous not only survive, but thrive in the midst of the struggle. May her sleep tonight be marked not by fear of what is to come, but by the certainty that, whatever the form of the attack, the end is already decreed. You emerge victorious. There is a profound delicacy in this verse. The Lord connects deliverance directly to the love we show him. It's not just about asking for help, but about maintaining an intimate relationship with Him. The text doesn't say, "Because you asked, I will deliver you, but because you loved me." This shows that love for God opens spiritual doors that nothing else can. It is the heart's bond with the Creator that guarantees us safety amidst chaos. When you love God dearly, that is, intensely, this love becomes an invisible refuge. Love brings us closer, and a heart close to God lives under constant protection. This verse reveals that it is not just faith that sustains, but love that trusts, surrenders, and endures. The promise is not vague. The Lord Himself says that sincere love moves His arm of deliverance. Loving God is more than a feeling. It is choosing to trust even when you don't understand. It is worshiping even in the silence of the night. It is surrendering oneself completely. This love is what makes the soul unshakable. Those who love in this way experience not only external deliverance, but an inner peace that becomes greater than any storm. To love God is to rest in Him, knowing that He will never fail. Lord, I pray that this person who is now preparing to sleep may be enveloped by Your love. May they feel the warmth of Your presence. May their heart be strengthened, and may their love for You be the firm foundation that guarantees deliverance. May they know that loving You is not in vain, but a key that opens doors of protection and victory. Dear Father, pour a renewed and cherished love into this heart. May they, as they close their eyes, realize that Your love for them came first, and therefore they can love You back with complete abandon. May this love be the anchor that sustains their soul, the melody that calms their thoughts, and the strength that protects them from all evil. Realize that the deliverance here is not just physical. It is also spiritual, emotional, and even mental. When the heart loves God intensely, it finds escape from fears, lies, and temptations. This is a precious secret. Love for God not only pleases Him, but also envelops Him in deliverance that encompasses every area of life. When thinking about this love that guarantees deliverance, imagine yourself within a circle of light. This light is not produced by you, but by God Himself, who responds to your love. Within this circle, no arrow strikes, no snare binds, no darkness dominates. Love for God places you in this protected space where peace reigns even when the world seems to be falling apart. Lord, teach us to love You more, truly and deeply. Free us from loving only with words, and place within us a heart that surrenders completely to You. May our every gesture, even when we lie down, be an expression of this love. May our rest be proof that we trust and love the Lord with all our hearts. This verse also teaches us something transformative. Love gives us identity. Those who love God are recognized by God Himself as worthy of special protection. It's like a seal that marks their lives. Therefore, as you sleep, declare this truth: I love the Lord, and I know He will deliver me. This declaration is like a shield that covers your night. There is immense beauty in this promise. He will call upon me, and I will answer him. It's not a maybe. It's not a distant possibility. It's a certainty. The God of the universe, the creator of heaven and earth, bends down to answer the cry of those who seek Him. This means that every prayer said before bed, even those said silently and through tears, finds an echo in the Lord's heart. The interesting thing is to realize that God's answer doesn't always come in the form we imagine. Often, the answer is the peace that fills our hearts before the problem is resolved. Other times, it's the strength to endure until deliverance arrives. And still other times, it's the miracle itself unfolding before our eyes. The important thing is to trust. The answer always comes in perfect timing. In the stillness of the night, when the noises of the day fall silent, the heart can finally realize that God answers. Silence isn't the absence of an answer. Often it's God's care working in the deepest layers of our soul. The psalmist declares this truth as certainty. No matter the affliction, no matter the hour, if you call out, he will answer. Lord, I pray. Now for this person who is listening, may every plea, every unspoken thought, every silent tear be transformed into an answer from above. May they realize they are not speaking to emptiness, but to the living God who answers truly and powerfully. May their night be filled with the certainty that you are listening. Dear Father, may the answer come in the form of rest. May they sleep without fear, without anxiety, because you have already placed it in your hands. May their heart realize that your answer has already begun when they decided to call upon your name. May this prayer be the bridge for heaven to touch their life today. This promise also teaches us to persist. God is not bothered by repeated cries. On the contrary, He rejoices when we seek Him constantly. Just like a child who calls out to his father at any time and receives attention, so is our cry. This confidence that He always answers lifts the weight from our soul and allows us to rest in peace. Imagine as you close your eyes that your every word rises like incense before the throne of God. And now imagine the Lord Himself with love and tenderness bending down to answer. There is no forgotten prayer, no lost cry. He notes each plea, and at the right time, He responds with care and wisdom. Lord, renew this person's faith to believe in the answer. May the enemy have no power to plant doubt in their mind, but may the certainty of God's answer be greater than any uncertainty. May they wake up and see signs of your care and know that the Lord has been answering throughout the night. The wonderful thing is that this promise does not depend on merit. It is the fruit of the covenant of love between God and those who call upon Him. This means that even in the midst of weakness, even when tired or insecure, you can call upon Him and He will answer. The Lord doesn't demand perfection. He asks for a sincere heart. Therefore, before you sleep, pray with confidence. Don't just speak words, but surrender your life into God's hands, believing that He will answer. This trust changes the way you go to bed and the way you wake up. When your heart understands that the Father answers, sleep becomes deep and restorative because it rests in eternal promise. When the psalm declares, I will be with him in trouble, I will deliver him and honor him, we find one of the richest and most profound promises in the Word. God doesn't say there will be no anguish, but He assures us of His presence within. This is wonderful because we often seek a God who will immediately deliver us from suffering, but He, in His wisdom, first makes Himself present in the midst of the valley. The greatest treasure is not escaping pain quickly, but knowing that we are not alone in it. It is in the night of affliction that this promise shines brightest. When heavy thoughts try to dominate, the heart discovers that there is someone sitting beside, invisible to the eye but real to the spirit. God presents Himself as a companion in anguish, and this presence changes everything. It is not the absence of problems, but the certainty of divine companionship. This awareness brings rest, even before deliverance arrives. The second part of the promise is even more surprising. I will deliver him. Here, God affirms that He will not only be with us, but will also act. Deliverance can come in many forms, sometimes by driving away evil, other times by strengthening us to endure, and at certain moments by transforming the circumstance itself into victory. Either way, deliverance is inevitable for those who trust, but the text doesn't stop there. And I will glorify him. This means that tribulation ends not only in peace, but in honor. God takes stories of pain and transforms them into testimonies of victory. What could otherwise bring shame, He transforms into glory. Even sleepless nights and tears can become memories of how God's faithfulness has sustained and honored. Dear Lord, I pray now for this person listening. May they, even in the midst of anguish, feel your real presence. May they not feel abandoned, but supported. May they realize that you are with them in their anguish, and that your love covers every detail of their life. May this certainty be a balm to their soul tonight. Dear Father, I pray that deliverance will come upon this life. May all pressure, all fear, all anxiety be broken by the power of your name. And may not only relief come, but also honor. May people look upon them and see the brilliance of your glory. May their story be marked by the presence that consoles and the deliverance that transforms. It is curious to note that God does not simply promise to take away evil, but to add honor afterward. This shows that battles are not wasted. Each struggle becomes an opportunity for growth, for strengthening faith, and for bearing witness. Sleeping with this certainty is like lying down, knowing that even the tears of the night are being collected and transformed into pearls for the future. Lord, make this night a time of transformation. May this person's dreams be filled with signs of your presence. May they perceive your care even in their rest. May their anguish be transformed into deep rest, and may tomorrow be marked by clear evidence of your deliverance. This promise also teaches us not to fear the valleys. There is no valley so dark that it is not illuminated by the presence of the Most High. There is no anguish so great that it cannot be sustained by the hand of God. When the heart understands this, even the pillow becomes an altar, and sleep becomes a testimony of trust. It's not just about escaping the difficulty, it's about being honored in it. God doesn't just pull you out of the fire, He makes the fire refine and make you stronger. He doesn't just close the dark night, but makes the sun rise even brighter. Rest knowing that God's presence is already with you, deliverance is on the way, and honor will be the seal of the promise fulfilled. When we reach the last verse of this profound psalm, we find a promise that closes with a flourish. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my salvation. It is as if God is saying to us, I will not only protect you today, I will not only guard you at night, but my blessing extends throughout life and beyond. This abundance of days is not just a counting of years, but a life filled with purpose, meaning, and divine care. Notice how the promise goes beyond the physical. God does not simply say that He will prolong life, but that He will show His salvation. This means that the days are not only long, but full of experiences of deliverance, grace, and revelations of His love. It is not quantity without quality. It is a full life, with a taste of eternity in every detail. The night is a reminder of this cycle. When we lie down, we symbolically surrender our lives to the Lord, without control over what happens while we sleep. Each morning is a sign that He has sustained our lives once again. Thus, long life is not only about living many years, but also about waking each day under the hand of the Most High. Lord, I pray now that this promise will be fulfilled in this person's life. May they receive an abundance of days filled with your presence, marked by your care. May each stage of life be a new opportunity to know more of your love. And may they, as they close their eyes today, rest knowing that your salvation is the greatest gift. Father, may salvation become real, not only as an eternal destiny, but as a daily experience. May they perceive you delivering, guiding, and sustaining them. May they understand that salvation is having a soul safe, even in the midst of storms. May they rest, knowing that they belong to you, and nothing can take them from your hand. This promise also teaches us not to fear the future. Many lose sleep worrying about what will come, but here is the certainty. God guarantees life and salvation. He is already in tomorrow, preparing the way. This frees us to sleep in peace, because the Lord of time has already decreed abundance and care for each of our days. Lord, I place this life in your hands. Show them your salvation in visible ways, in small daily miracles, and in great deliverances. May even their dreams be marked by signs of your goodness. And may their heart awaken renewed, filled with the certainty that the Lord is writing a long and blessed life story. A long life is not just about quantity, but about spiritual intensity. Each day lived in the Lord is a full day, even amid challenges. The psalmist reminds us that even battles become part of abundance, because they reveal God's faithfulness. Thus, this night's rest is already part of this promise, another chapter guarded by the Most High. Say with faith, "My life is in the hands of the Lord. He will give me long life and show me his salvation." This declaration is a way to align your soul with the divine promise and allow peace to descend upon your heart. Subscribe to this channel, walk daily with us, and allow each night to be watered by the Word of God. Here you will find psalms that renew, prayers that strengthen, and promises that remind you. The Lord is faithful to prolong your days and reveal his eternal salvation. Sleeping with this certainty is resting in the lap of the Most High in perfect peace.